If drivers learned anything from last week, they're likely to have to apply it here today. The similarities between Phillip Island and Barcelona means the previous round could be considered practice. The big difference is that this race is in the endurance format instead. They'll not only have to outrun their rivals, but outlast them now. We'll see who can as we get ready to watch round 10 of the iRacing Kamel GT series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Adam Lindgren. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Phillip Island's plethora of corners and its short lap length means there's plenty of challenge for each driver. Let's head to our track guide to learn more. Welcome to Phillip Island. As the name implies, this track is located on a splotch of land off the south coast of Australia near Melbourne. While there's been plenty of racing here for close to a century, the track's current incarnation has only been around since the late 80s. And this version is a doozy. With only 12 turns spread across the roughly 4.5 kilometers, it's a decently fast circuit. But what really makes this place stand apart is the incredible variety in those few corners. From negative to positive camber, early apexes, late apexes, blind crest, hairpins, sweepers, if you name it, it's probably got it. On top of that, the front stretch tends to offer up a slipstream with its incredible length, but it then forces the drivers into a game of chicken by chucking them into the frightening Ewan. Corners like Lukey Heights stretches a car's grip to the limit and then shocks you with a sudden downhill braking into MG. Retaining something of an old-school twist, unlike most modern courses, Phillip Island has earthen embankments running along many parts of the track. While it's meant to keep the cars safely retained within the circuit's confines, anyone unfortunate enough to manage to jump them will be faced with a ton of damage for their troubles. A variety of types of racing take place at the track, including motorcycles, lower-level open-wheelers, and touring cars. Possibly the most well-known among those is the Australian Supercars Championship. With the Aussie reputation of having dangerous, difficult, and challenging circuits, Phillip Island certainly holds up to the standard. The beautiful views of the beach and the ocean may lure some of the fans in, but there's no doubt that the incredible racing at this unique track keeps them around. Well, Phillip Island has hosted plenty of races here, but with this being the longer one, I mean, what kind of changes do you think we'll see with that, Adam?
Well, the Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit is one of the most unique circuits on iRacing. It's perched at the top of a small island with slopes and cliffs falling away from the track in all directions. And this unforgiving circuit boasts 12 turns and 2.76 miles or 4.44 kilometers of sweeping challenge. The Audis, at least, will feel more at home here than Barcelona, with their biggest challenges being into the Southern Loop, Lukey Heights, and Turn 12 due to their understeer. And the Nissans will struggle with their characteristic turbo lag off of Honda, Siberia, and through Lukey Heights, and out of MG as well. So pretty much most of the places around the track that aren't downforce sections. The real story here, though, is multi-class and that 60-minute time limit. Phillip Island is only 2.5 lanes wide at its widest point, and the lap differential between the two classes is very stark here as well. Add to that the long sweepers like Dewan, Stoner, Lukey Heights, and Turn 12, as well as 3 hairpins which the Audis will fly out of and the Nissans will dive bomb into. And you've got a recipe for some multi-class action. But that being said, with the 60-minute time limit as well, adding a pit stop to the mix is going to make things even more complicated for those Nissans that are trying to cut through the Audi field today.
Well, we'll watch out for that. Before we get to that racing, though, let's take a glance at the point standings, as we've only got 3 rounds left, including today. And up at the top of the prototypes, it is currently Fabian Gerber, 20 points ahead of Nick Schneider. And they've started counting those drop weeks. And Fabian does drop a very poor result, so there is hope that if he has any more mistakes, they can climb up to it. But remember, it is 25 points for a win. So both Schneider and Hall have really got to hustle. It's going to make it almost impossible for Andra to become a factor, although he did miss 2 of the weeks so far. So those will count as zeros, but again, he is under the gun to perform, with Nick Mukanos about 5 points back from him, rounding out our top 5. What about the GTO points?
Well, after his poor finish last week, Joni Kaisen has fallen back even further from Yuko Leskola. Now, with the drop points counted, that still brings him within about a 1.5 of Yuko, but I think this is a done deal unless Yuko has a big disaster towards the back half of this season. That being said, don't look anywhere because look at the battle for third. It's tighter than it ever has been. Escalante and Namby only 4 points ahead of both Ben Laughter and Reed Miller, who are tied for fourth, with Miguel Castro only 12 points out of that fourth position as well. It's anyone's game for the last step on the podium, and still going into this race. I mean, after such a good race last week, Joe, I expect to see more fireworks today.
I'm sure many of our viewers are familiar with the race details, but again, they're slightly different this time. It is a 60-minute race that they are running today in round 10. It is an open setup series, so the drivers can try and tweak the cars to their liking. And of course, don't forget that they have some penalties. That if they go off track enough times, they'll get a drive through at 17 incidents and an actual disqualification at 25. It's a longer race, and those incidents have not increased in accordance to that, so they have to be even more particular about how often they run into off tracks or other cars. Right now, Fabian Gerber is our provisional pole sitter up in the prototypes, and Yuko Leskala holding the pole down in the GTOs.
Yeah, Yuko holding that pole over Rob Olenek, and taking a look, it's actually a really, really small Audi field here today. Only 13 cars have shown up compared to the 22 of the Nissans. So the Audis are going to get bullied around quite a bit today. Here's Yuko Leskala pulling through. He's heading towards the final turn of the course to come back onto the front stretch, and it's just such a challenge for most of these drivers to come through this final sector because it falls away towards the back half of turn 12. That's why you see him struggling there to get onto the rumble strip and get some speed. But Yuko crossing the line for his second lap. Looks like it's an improvement.
Most of our drivers up in our GTP class have already finished, and Cy Andra has already finished his two. He managed to get within third and a quarter of a tenth of a second behind Tobias Gerber, but still both the Gerber brothers are locking down that front row and have been for multiple races at this point. This is Roman Pawlowski. His second lap, sadly not an improvement. I do see that we've got at least one driver out in the GTP still trying to put a time in. I think that's Martin Krejcik in 20. And as he crosses, that's good enough for 15th. He's still going to be well down the order, unfortunately. He'll have one more try to try and improve there. Ricard has already taken both of his laps in qualifying, so he is practicing his pit entry, which, frankly, I don't blame him, Adam. I think that's going to be an important thing to do.
Absolutely, especially for the GTPs. We've seen them make mistakes and actually hit the pit wall before, after hard braking into the pit entry. A couple of GTPs did that the last time that we had an endurance round here at Phillip Island. So it's very important to practice pit entry for both of the classes, especially with how narrow that pit entry is. There you see Reed Miller practicing the pit entry as well, and Ove Tregrade practicing the track exit.
Well, the funny thing is he was actually practicing that pit entry on his second lap. I guess he wasn't happy with how it was going and just decided to abandon it and practice it. And, well, he slipped up a little bit, as you can see. Martin Krejcik, in the meantime, is he going to take the second lap? Yes, he is. As he comes around Swan Corner, can he do better than 15th right now? Carrying some good speed. It's a 1:17 flat last time by. This time, a 16.5, half a second quicker, and that will jump him up to 11, so it's a good thing he continued on.
Yeah, one final driver who's going to make it across the line is Marty Ole. Marty, newer name to the series, but coming through the final turn on his first lap. The only one he's going to get in. Let's see what kind of time he was able to put in. Crosses the line. That's going to be 1:18.7, so that's going to put him towards the back of the pack, but looks pretty comfortable throughout the lap, so hopefully he should be able to hang on to it in the traffic.
That was Robin Happich that we saw having a big moment coming off of Swan Corner, and actually that lap seemed to have counted and was faster somehow. I'm not sure how, but good on Happich to manage to stick with that one. Without enough time left, Ale is, of course, not going to be able to complete this one. which means our grid is set as I look through. Yes, indeed, nobody is able to come around to the line within these last 20 or so seconds. So let's go through our starting order today. It is going to be Fabian Gerber on the pole with Tobias Gerber next to him once again, but we have yet to see Tobias capitalize on his race pace. It is Cy Andres starting from third, and last week's winner, Matthias Hovdahl, will start from fourth. Nick Mukanos will be P5 with Nick Schneider in sixth, followed by Phil Lake starting well down in seventh place. It is Sean Campbell in eighth, and Laust Olsen with a great qualifying in ninth. Stephen Warkup rounds out your top 10. On the next slide, it is Martin Krajcik in 11th. Fabian Jungbluth, actually one of the cleanest drivers in the series based on incidents per corner. He will start 12th, and Aitor Sintes Guindo starts 13th. Joseph Mudrack, P14 for him, followed by Ross Banfield in 15th. On his outside, it is Bryce Calusa. Then he's got Hideki Koivisto back there in 17th, and Jonathan Ricard in 18th. Cam Porter starts 19th, and Marty Olli starts in 20th. Carlos Fonseca and Mark Materne will grid at the back of the prototypes.
Yuko Leskala takes pole in the GTOs with Rob Olnick lining up alongside him. Ove Trengrade's going to start off third today, with Reed Miller starting off in fourth. Max Beta Thomason starting off in the fifth position, with Brian Shanahan in sixth, and Escaleta Nemi starting off in seventh. Roman Pavlowski's going to battle with Esco all day, along with Devin Dane starting off in the ninth position. Robin Happich is going to start off in 10th, with Jamie Hamill-Smith in 11th. Mike Tupolo's going to start off 12th, and rounding out the field is Pablo Rangel. And you know, Joe, I noticed something. Guess who's missing from that lineup? Joni Kajanen.
Oh, wow. Oh, my goodness. Well, let's see. He's got 8 weeks counted so far. So this, he can't afford a drop week. Well, I use that liberally. The points are going to be much farther apart, but he will have that zero not count, essentially. So,
well, that definitely brings the points championship closer, and it might even make that battle for third into a battle for the top two positions, for the bottom two positions of the podium.
Yeah, it will allow Leskala to scamper away with things a whole lot easier for those who are hoping for a fight up at the top, as we now have the Porsche pace car take off. One thing I want to know about those GTOs, though, is how powerful do you think the slipstream, how much is it going to be worth on this front stretch? Because a lot of cars that we see here at this track certainly seem to pull quite a tow there.
Well, if you could stay within about 2 car lengths coming through turn 12, then you'll be able to get the pole into Dune. The trouble is that Dune's a long super as well. So if you dive to the inside there, you'll end up catching yourself out a little bit, and you can push wide into your competitor. A lot of folks decide to stick right to the back bumper through Dune and try and make a move through into the southern loop, and some of them even decide to wait all the way until Honda. So it's really a challenging thing to figure out where to pass around here in the Audi, and it really is going to depend on how much confidence you have with the driver ahead of you to, one, be quick through the first turn through Dune, or two, to be able to drive alongside you when you go through that challenging turn.
Just because I can't resist poking the bear, and I know it's one of those things that irks you, is the weather sometimes here. It's very early in the morning, 8 a.m. virtual standard time, but I have a feeling in the what should be the Australian summer, most of them would appreciate having 63 degrees Fahrenheit out there, but that doesn't strike me as something Australians often see, even this early in the morning.
Yeah, and what's more is 22 kilometer per hour wind out of the northwest, or 12 miles an hour, is pretty hefty. That's going to be affecting those GTPs, I think, especially when they start diving into these deeper corners. They're going to get some unexpected push from the rear through a couple of these corners, and we've seen that push guys off at places like Honda before.
Now, that wind definitely is realistic. We are right by the ocean, and this track certainly sees plenty of it in real life, so they'll have to watch out for that. They're probably used to it at this point, coming to this circuit. As we come through Lukey Heights up and over the crest. Looks beautiful in the morning light, honestly, as the drivers work their way down into MG as well. There's our GTO field, much smaller than our prototype, so it's going to be bad news for our Audis as they deal with a plethora of prototypes streaming by throughout this 60-minute race. The pace car is in. Fabian Gerber has control. He's making sure that everybody stacks up. He waits patiently, coming through Swan, looking for the chance to try and jump the field here. He's waiting a long time on this, holding them, and now he goes. Green flag is out, and Fabian Gerber is off. His brother slots into line. It's a battle for third as Syandra has a little bit of overlap with Hovdal next to him. They come down. They almost go 3 wide, coming down into Doohan. Hovdal can't hold on, but Andra trying to challenge on Tobias Gerber around the outside of the southern loop for second place. And we'll have to come back to that in a minute because we got to go to the GTOs.
Rob Olenek got a good start on Yuko Lesko, but Yuko Lesko's trying to go around the outside of him through the southern loop. Once again, it's going to be too wide, too deep there with Yuko Lesko and Rob Olenek. Rob's going to get the better of him, but then we have Reed Miller battling with Ove Trangrade. Looks like Reed's going to get the better jump as they dive into Honda. It's going to be a very tight race there. I think that Ove's going to try and make a dive on Reed Miller into Honda. No, he's actually going to decide to stay in line, but we have a car off in the background and a big wreck at the GTPs.
Oh my goodness, and Tobias Gerber involved in that. Laust Olsen. I see Marty Ollie as well as Aitor Sentes Guindo. There he is right there. Let's take a look at the replay. I suspect since he had just been passed and he was up towards the front, that this may have started with Gerber, Tobias Gerber. There you see him at the side of the road.
And this was coming through Siberia, so very interesting place to have an incident. There must have been a little bit of contact there. Let's see whether or not Tobias was the cause of that. Here we go, and here we go through. Oh my goodness, he just lost it under the brakes.
And what that did is that caused Olsen to spin and unfortunately nearly blocked the track. Everybody had to scatter. So it was sort of multiple incidents. I wouldn't completely put it on Gerber. Thankfully, we didn't have more drivers get serious damage out of that. As we come to the top, Syandra, now that he has gotten into second place, is all over the back of his longtime rival, Fabian Gerber.
Yeah, and the car you saw off in the GTOs was Max Bader Thompson. He's now back to 12th position, but he's still definitely within reach. But look at this, Syandra definitely hounding Fabian Gerber right now, trying to make a challenge for that lead. Cy sees an opportunity. He saw Tobias go around. He knows that this is his opportunity to grab that elusive win one of the elusive wins he's been looking for this season. Look at him challenge. He looks very strong under the high downforce sections, Joe.
Yeah, this championship is not over, but he has a lot of points to make up. 41 behind Fabian Gerber. So not only does he need to beat him here today, he has to hope that Fabian runs into some trouble to really gain some ground. Let's take a look at the GTOs, however, because Rob Olenek is ahead of Yuko Leskola now. Reed Miller still trailing behind them. The top three slightly pulling away from those behind.
Yeah, Rob just hanging on to that position as they've continued to fight here in the opening laps. Rob able to get ahead of Yuko as we saw through the southern loop and down through Stoner. He's actually doing a good job to try and pull away here. Yuko Leskola might be pacing himself though. I'm not sure the Audis are going to be taking time fuel stop. It depends on how much fuel they end up using. It's going to be a real marginal thing for a lot of these drivers, so it's possible that Yuko's trying to save tires here, but Rob actually starting to put on a little bit of a clinic here, and that gap between each of them is about half a second. Not close enough to make any sort of move into doing, but maybe possibly if he was able to hang on, maybe something into Honda.
And if I'm remembering correctly, this is Rob jumping back to the GTOs. He was racing in the GTPs much this season, if I was remembering correctly. So back to his bailiwick, and it's paying off in spades as he's already got himself a half-second gap over Yuko Leskola. Looks like they're being joined by a fourth car. Ove Trangrade is gaining on them, and let's watch from his perspective. He's dropped Roman Pavlowski by about 1.5 seconds currently. There you can see the top three just in front of him as they hit the higher portions of this course.
Absolutely. We're going on board with Ove Trangrade, taking a look at his timing and scoring. If you want to see timing and scoring for the entire race, check it out at gsrc.tv. That's our timing and scoring platform that you can take a look at and keep track of your favorite drivers. Look at that, Reed Miller and Ove Trangrade, definitely with different lines here as they go through Looking Heights, and they're going to dive it down into MG and wind through this really tight corner. It's so awesome to watch the different lines around here and how each driver and each setup is handled differently. Remember, an open setup series, so these drivers can choose to set up the car however they like or dislike at their pleasure.
Norwegian certainly doesn't seem to be afraid to hold very tight to Reed as well through some of those corners. Might give him a good tow coming down the front stretches. We watch the 4 head into doing. He's close, but not close enough. Same thing has been going on with Syandra, honestly, up at the front of the prototypes, where he's been within less than half a second behind Fabian Gerber, and actually took a little bit of a look into Honda. But I'm actually kind of starting to wonder if Sy's thinking well ahead, if he's maybe trying to save a little fuel himself riding behind Fabian.
Well, another thing he's going to want to do is put a gap between himself and Matthias Hofdahl, so riding behind Fabian might be a good strategy here. You see him poke his nose in, trying to get Fabian to make a mistake, because remember, that's the win condition for him, is he really wants Fabian to make a mistake and lose a lot of positions. There's quite a bit of dirt that's been dragged back onto the track at the center, at the apex of Dewan Corner. That's going to be affecting both of these classes as they clip that. It's going to cause a little bit of instability. But here Syandra comes with a good run through Stoner. He's going to try and make a dive into Honda. He's going to take a look. He's going to try and do it under the brakes, but Fabian able to get a better braking done, able to go to the apex and keep ahead of Syandra.
It left him a little bit of room. He wasn't totally sure if he was going to be there, and didn't lose his spot in the meantime. Now, you may have noticed up at the top of the screen, Andra claimed the fastest lap, but that is less than a thousandth quicker than Matthias Hofdahl. They both ran a 1:17.170. Just incredibly tight times between them, which isn't necessarily good news for Matthias, because he has to make up about a 1.5 seconds, almost 2-second gap to those top two.
Absolutely. Matthias Hofdahl falling off by almost, like you said, almost 2 seconds. I think this is part of Sy's plan, is that you want to ride behind your competitor until the competitors behind you aren't going to be a factor when you try and make a move. Syandra, though, it just looks like he's quicker everywhere, to be honest, Joe. So it's a little surprising to me. Like, I think it's approaching to be time to make that move, especially right as they're coming up on the back of the GTO traffic, as Fabian Gerber actually goes a little bit wide through Dewan.
All right, he seems to like Honda a couple times now. We've seen the number 1 try and poke his nose on Fabian Gerber. He's not as close this time, though.
They're going to have Mike Tupola right at the apex of the corner, so they're going to have to go around him, so that's going to affect that battle for sure. These guys are only about 5 seconds behind Max Bailey Thomason before they try and before they get up there and start weaving through this GTO traffic. That's going to be about a half a lap.
Our GTO leaders they have traffic in the prototypes. It's Carlos Fonseca, but he's not lapping them. He's looking to try and get on the same lap. And he's going to separate Yuko Leskala, who's still chasing on Olenek. We ride on board with Rabo, and he is looking back a little bit off the apex there, going the wide way around. Carlos finally leaves them be, and they continue on down the front stretch. Top 4 starting to spread apart from one another.
Absolutely, but in the lead of the GTPs, it's very tight between Fabian Gerber and Syandra. They're starting to weave through this GTO traffic. Fabian Gerber went around the outside of Max Bailey Thomason, who almost pushed him off the track through the final turn. Look at this, Syandra's going to weave around the outside. Oh, Fabian gets pushed off track. So does Syandra. Sy's not going to be able to hang on to it in the wrecks.
And that actually runs into Esko Letiniemi, who goes off course. Somehow Fabian Gerber does not lose the lead. He catches the car, but this allows Matthias Hofdahl to gain a little bit of ground. Let's watch that one more time. Unfortunately, the reverse of what Syandra was hoping would happen has happened.
And here's Matthias coming up upon the wreck. That's Sy going off track. This is our 2nd place in GTP points, our 3rd place in GTO points, both having that wreck there. Here we go, as this is, wow, yeah, Sy just didn't expect to see the GTO push out. I'm a little surprised, Joe, because that's a very normal line for the GTOs to be taking out of Dewan.
Well, he started around the outside of the prior car, and yeah, I guess he was just kind of committed to the line. Now, I don't see a whole lot of damage. I think a little bit on his left front. Otherwise, he may have gotten away with that. The question is, how much speed does it still have?
Well, back down there in the 10th, in what's now going to be the 9th position, he's going to have a long way to get back up there. This is the opposite of what he needed today.
Had some swapping of positions for 5th here. This is Lake and Campbell. Campbell managed to sneak by in the traffic, but it might go right back to Phil as they're going to go too wide up into Dewan. Phil around the outside, but much braver, and he uses the pick of a car in traffic. Brian Shanahan to ease by, nicely sized up, and Andra is hitting.
Yeah, well, I said it was a fairly normal line for the GTO to go wide through doing. I'm going to say that it's not the optimal line. The optimal line is to stay tucked into the apex, but it's fairly normal to see a GTO go wide there, so that's why I was a little surprised. But Phil Lake, with his knowledge of the GTOs, having just transferred over to the GTPs this season, you can see him using that knowledge to cut through this traffic.
And it looks like Andres finished his pit stop. I think this is... he just spun the tires and wrecked on his way out and got more damage just after he fixed what he had.
The day goes from bad to worse for Sai. This is really unfortunate. This is something that's just gonna be sticking in your head the entire race as you watch this championship starting to run away even further.
I don't see anything of damage from these angles. But okay, yeah, it looks like it fixed itself on my screen as well. So maybe he didn't actually get the walls and managed to avoid them on his way out. Meanwhile, second place for the prototypes. We thought Hovdahl would gain on Gerber. No, it is Nick Schneider. Instead, the driver who led for much of this championship fight is right on his tail and looking to try and claim P2.
Yeah, when the battle for P1 accident happened, Matthias Hovdahl was 2 seconds behind Fabian Gerber before he went off track. Now we're a lap later, 2 laps later rather, and Matthias Hovdahl is now almost 5 seconds behind, and Nicholas Schneider right on his rear bumper. So I think Matthias had to have made a mistake through that last sector where got held up significantly by traffic. Looks like the 11 machine of the GTPs is currently had a wreck. I'll have to keep my eyes on that later.
I know Cam Porter also went off track. A single car incident, don't need to go and check that as he just went wide at doing. Now the 11 is Reed Miller. I'm trying to see, I was trying to check, that's one of our major players. I'm not seeing anything here, so, and the car looks clean. But he has lost time to Leskala. I'm guessing just traffic, unfortunately, causing him to fall backwards.
Yeah, the GTPs can really cause a mess here, and you can see that he's still battling with Ove Trengray behind. These two have been battling all season long. It's awesome to see. It's even more awesome when you're in the driver's seat and you have someone to battle with. I was the same way with Nicky back when I used to drive the GTOs. Two of us would battle a lot side by side throughout the seasons, and so just awesome to see that.
Now, Lake has disposed of Campbell, and he's already on the back of Nick Mukanos, his fellow Dirty Torque teammate, as they come down into Honda corner. This is for P4, and they're not too far behind Nick Schneider, who is still close to Hovdahl. So Lake is looking like he's got speed today. He hasn't always had the luck, though, this season.
Yeah, no consistency.
Yeah, but... so far, so good. It's still early days in the race, but at the moment, it looks like it's heading in a favorable direction.
It'll be interesting to keep our eyes on this. Nick Mukanos has not had a great season. In fact, he's had a couple of seasons that were just a lot of bad luck has befallen him as well. So he's right now fairly unlucky. Ooh, we've had a wreck for 11th position in the GTOs. That was between Max Bader Thompson and Escoleta Niemi. Those two guys actually battling for points right now.
Ooh, this is an interesting one too. Letaniemi, who's already been off once, looks like he's going to go off through Stoner, which is a very fast corner. Here it is, right here. There you can see him in the grass. There's no controlling it. Unfortunately, to Thomason, it was just an innocent victim.
Yeah, that's actually pretty significant contact there, and that's really unfortunate. There's nothing you can do if you're Stoner trying to just hold on. Well, not if you're Stoner. If you're Escoleta Niemi trying to hold on to it there's no way you can arrest that slide at that point. Even if you held the brakes, even if you hit the gas, it's not going to make a difference. He was always headed to hit the side of Maxime at that point. So tried to lock it down, couldn't quite do it.
Well, before that, we were watching the fight between Mukanos and Lake, and they've come up to lap traffic. Carlos Fonseca in front of them. This might play a part. In fact, it's holding up Nick Mukanos. Phil Lake could use this as a pick once again, but this time within his own class. As they dive it down into MG, they're finally allowed through by Carlos, and Lake can't capitalize.
Yeah, the only place he would have been able to do it was to try and make a late dive into MG, but the risk was too high. It would have brought them the two of them together. Going 3 wide into MG is not advisable for sure. So Phil Lake's going to have to wait until another opportunity.
I'm sure he'll get it. He looks pretty quick today from the way things have gone. Up in front of them, it's spread apart between Schneider and Hovdal. I think Nick also finding difficulty in the traffic. So this is now our best battle up here at the top of the prototype field. Two very different lines between them.
Yeah, we had a little bit of a moment between Pablo Rangel and one of the GTPs. Let's take a look at this because this is just a little bit of misunderstanding, I think.
This is Mark Materne in the 35. Who's going to clip him. Yeah, he thought he had an opening here. Oh, that looked like a little net code as well.
Yeah, a little net code, a little ghost contact there, and just a misunderstanding of lines. Yeah, it's really difficult here with the different level of experience with the GTO drivers that some of them do take every apex and expect the GTPs to go around them. Others try and give room to the GTPs, and that can be really confusing for a GTP driver to figure out which drivers are the ones that let you by and which ones make you try and battle. But here's the battle for fourth at GTO between Reed Miller and Rome Pawlowski. Pawlowski actually made a late dive into Honda because Reed was being held up by Jonathan Rickard at the apex of the corner. Coming off of Siberia, Reed's going to get a better run, but Rome Pawlowski definitely starting to hound him. Here goes Bryce Calusa around the outside.
Reed was briefly in third at the start of this race, has lost that to Trangrade. Now he might actually fall to fifth, depending on what Roman can do with all this. They've got multiple cars coming through. This is Cy Andre, who's done with his pit stop, and he manages to shove that nose down to the inside of MG, slowing both of them up quite a bit, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure about that one, Cy. I mean, Roman Pawlowski, the Audi is going to be quicker through MG than the GTP, so it's often better to just hang out behind. But there you see Cy just cutting through the traffic, cutting between himself, Reed, and Ove. Ove got significantly held up there, so now the gap between these three guys is actually fairly even.
Now, I'm pretty certain that Cy's pit stop was within...
Oh, that's Cam Porter.
That's the second time he's done that. We didn't show the replay before, but now you saw exactly what happens when you go a little bit too wide through Dewan, and he'll lose yet more time, unfortunately. Yeah, just like you said, trying to go around the outside like we saw with Cy Andre and Fabian Gerber just doesn't seem to go well.
You know, Joe, I expected that the Audis were going to be pushed around today, but it sure looks like the GTPs are the ones who are getting pushed around a little bit. Not that the Audis are doing anything wrong, but the GTPs are reacting in very unusual ways, in my opinion, to how the Audis are taking their lines. And we're seeing a lot of off tracks due to it.
It is an endurance race. I wonder if we need to remind the drivers more than we need to remind the viewers, as we once again see if Cy Andre can claim another spot, because he's on Calusa here, but he's also having to overtake. Oh, and then off track, that's Rickard. They're going to go three wide as Calusa almost slows up trying to stay out of Jonathan, and that gives two more positions to Cy Andre. He's up to 16th, as quick as you like.
Yeah, good commitment there for Cy Andre to just cut through. He saw a gap and decided to take it. Looks like Laust also has made a pass on Hideki Clevisto as well.
Laust has had another off that we didn't see a little earlier, including his problem spinning on lap one, so it's been a bad day.
Oh, and side by side between Reed Miller and Ove Trangrade as they go through Dewan. This is exactly what I was talking about with the trust between the drivers. These guys have been battling each other all season. They know how to do it, but Reed Miller can't carry the speed through the southern loop, can't get the thing turned, and he's off track. That's going to lose him a significant amount of positions. I think he's going to go back to fifth.
Going off the racing line today almost seems like a death knell. So many drivers have just gone slightly offline and find themselves suddenly in the grass as Mukanos and Lake are fighting once again. They're being held up behind to Thomason, who's just trying to hold his line. They're able to go off the racing line and survive it, but Lake stays back. That's for position. That's Sean Campbell, who's caught up because of that checkup.
Yeah, and actually Phil Lake almost went off track there through the southern loop. Just the outside of that corner is super slick today. I'm going to have to take a look at the track map once again and figure out where that wind is coming from, but it might be blowing. This is going to be interesting because I think it's a northwest wind, so it's going to be blowing on them as they go through the southern loop. That's going to be affecting that cornering, and that might be why we see a lot of people being blown off course. They're doing as well.
That's a good point. I hadn't considered that. Maybe that's what's tripping so many up. Oh, and here's another one. This is Happich in front of them. Nick Mukanos, which way is he going to pick? He's waiting for an opening. He goes to the inside, but now he's got two more cars they're going to try and sneak through. He's aware of it. Happich lets them to go on by down the front stretch, and Mukanos trying to break the toe. Phil Lake reels him in, but he runs out of track before they head through Dewan.
Yes, that's a tailwind that they're getting through Dewan, and then a side force wind as they go into the southern loop. So that's why you see people getting blown off course quite often here. So this is what's part of what's affecting these GTPs and why we're seeing so many off. But this battle for fourth position continuing to be an amazing one with Nick Mukanos. He's gonna, Phil Lake's just kind of biding his time right now. I think he's trying to use the GTOs as a pick, like you said, Joe, and just trying to wait for that to happen. One of the fascinating things I'm keeping my eyes on, though, is that Rob Olenek has pulled a second and a half over Yuko Leskola for the lead of this race. This is the first time we've seen Yuko really get challenged in a race like this.
It honestly is. He's been by far the quickest in the field at almost every round we've been at. That said, we haven't had an enduro round for a minute, so is this again thinking long term? What is Yuko doing? Is this his true pace as we watch from on board the fin and our championship leader not really able to challenge Olenek thus far?
Yeah, Yuko's just kind of hanging back. I mean, it is possible that it's strategy. We should go back to the battle for fourth in the GTPs, though, because Phil Lake is definitely thinking about a move on Nick Mukanos. He thought about doing it to the inside of Dewan there, but thought better of it. I'm trying to figure out when he's going to make this move because it really is holding him up. He's lost a good 3 or 4 seconds to Nicholas Schneider over the course of this.
Well, if he's going to do it, I think Honda's a good opportunity. Maybe not this time, though. He's a little far back. We see plenty of overtakes attempted into that corner. Pawlowski is going to be next up the road in the number 17. And they're going to catch him on the back side of the course, which is where the line switches back and forth across the track a lot. This is another great chance for Phil.
Phil definitely looking with a great opportunity. Here comes Roman Pawlowski. That's a great move by Nick Mukanos to get around the outside. That forces Roman to have to take it very shallow. That was close there. Oh man, between Sean Campbell and Roman Pawlowski. But here they go into the final sector as they pass Ove Trengere. This is where things get real spicy between these drivers.
Trengere going to stay off to the high side, and it looks like they're all able to sneak by. Now, Sean Campbell got a decent run on Phil Lake, so it's actually worked against Phil here. Let's see if the number 8 can manage to try something. He pokes his nose out. He's trying to get into his head. Can't get the overlap, though.
Strong tailwind into Dewan. I think it's going to be a no-go for the passes and to do it for the GTPs. They just have a hard time hanging on to it. You can see Phil Lake using the brakes to try and rotate the GTP a little bit through the southern loop there. But yeah, these guys unfortunately broke it up a little bit, but they're coming up on our battle for the lead between Yuko and Rob. We're going to jump up to that. Yuko having a little bit of instability out of Honda, but he's close to Rob Olenek to under a second now.
Finally fighting back. Let's see how the interference from that battle for fourth plays into this as they come up through Hayshed and into Lukey Heights. The track just tightening and off camber, climbing up the hill until it crests, and it's on its way down. It's going to be into MG where they get hit by the traffic, and Mukanos is almost by Leskola. This is going to cost him. Yuko is not going to be happy about this as he has to patiently let them all through.
That's my least favorite place where anyone can pass is turn 11 right there. This is so challenging.
Mukanos got held up. Mukanos got held up big time. Here comes Phil Lake down to the inside. This time he's side by side into Dewan. He's going to be the inside of the right-hander, but the outside of Southern Loop. But no, he's clear. So Phil Lake, after many laps of trying, finally grabs fourth.
Yeah, he's clear and managed to hang on to it. Great move there from Phil. Let's see whether or not he can streak away from Nick Mukanos. He was quicker than him by about 0.2 a lap before he got caught up behind him. He's been caught up behind him for a good 10 laps now. So let's see whether or not Phil can break away. Looks like Tobias Gerber is into the pits. He's not had a great day today, John.
No, he was working his way back forward. It looked like he had managed to get into the top 10. So we'll keep the eyes on this battle, and I'll give you an update on Tobias to see what his pit stop looks like. He's already been overtaken by Sai Andra, who has finished his pit stop. We are 5 minutes away from the halfway mark, so we could see some more drivers try and split this one equally in half. It all depends. Plunging down into MG, that really gives you a good sense of how much of a drop it is. That low camera we saw from Dougie.
It's really easy to lock up the fronts going into that corner. But here we're taking a look at the battle between Sai Andra. He's now got Hideki Clavisto and Marty Ole, and he's actually not that far behind Lost Olsen himself. So this is a nice big battle there for that 12th position that we're seeing on screen. These guys are quite close together, and they're catching up to some traffic right here. Oh boy, it's going to be close as they go into MG. A lot of them are going to have to navigate coming out of the corner. It's going to be a real challenge for these guys. Look at that. Sai Andra is taking the apex away. Let's go slow bump on exit because of that tight apex of turn 11.
That was Hamel Smith, who did a good job holding to the inside. Looks like Hamel Smith is pitting along with Laust as he saw the writing on the wall and is going to take his service. Now, as we take a look at Lake, Lucanos, and Campbell still fighting for fourth, interesting to note, and maybe this will come into play later, Andra is 51 seconds behind Fabian Gerber. He was 20 seconds stationary, 40 seconds on the lane. I don't think Sai is out of it for the win. I think he could still snatch this.
That is if he has the fuel and tires to make it to the end, Joe. I'm not sure whether he does. He pitted with 50 minutes left to go in his race. Now, he would have to stretch just a little bit, I think, to get there. But, yeah, I mean, he's definitely in with a shout, Joe. But it's all going to depend on how he navigates the traffic and whether he can do it better than everybody up ahead of him.
We'll keep our eyes on that if we see an update between them. Hovdal, excuse me, that's Ricard, similar paint scheme. So that is not Hovdal that they are catching here. In fact, speaking of them, though, Schneider, who had dropped back briefly, is suddenly back within 0.8 of Matthias Hovdal. Matthias not as quick as we saw at Barcelona. He's 7 seconds behind Fabian Gerber and is instead on his rear guard.
Yeah, our two low downforce, low wing drivers here duking out for second position. Nicholas Schneider trying to catch up to the back of Matthias Hovdal. This is so challenging around here. Lukey Heights, one of the most difficult places to apply power in the GTB, in my opinion, in all of iRacing. Just the way that it crests away from you. The car just wants to squirrel out from underneath you while you try to apply power. Here we see Hovdal and Schneider. We're on board with Schneider now as we exit, coming out onto the front straight.
Let's keep on this, but an update on Laust Olsen. He must have had some big damage repairs to do because he was in the pits for a minute and a half, which is much longer than you typically expect. Olsen gets sent to the back of the field from that, unfortunately. In fact, there he is right in front of this battle, being lapped now.
Yeah, he did get some damage repaired in the pits. It was some rear wing damage and left clip damage, so Laust Olsen in the back of the pack, but he still got drivers to pass, so still a fun race for him.
It's a long ways to go. 30 minutes left, and anybody could make mistakes, especially with how difficult it looks to be on track today. We climb up through Siberia, and that's where we're going to leave them because 2 to 3/10 of a second between P1 and P2 right here in the GTO class. Yuko Leskala, this is what I was thinking. He's starting to turn up the wick now that he's happy with his consumption.
Now remember, this is pre-pit stops, so one of the things we're keeping my eyes on is tire wear. It looks like Rob is starting to deal with a little bit of tire wear fall off here. Yuko Leskala has been driving conservative, and I can't believe I'm saying that because Yuko tends to be one of the most aggressive drivers on track. But with his position points lead, he's currently one of the most conservative on track. And look at this, Matthias Hovdal into the pits.
Yeah, and that allows Schneider to take second place at least temporarily. And this is almost exactly halfway. So Matthias playing at the easy route of just splitting it perfectly into 2 stints, and he is taking tires, as we heard most drivers saying that is the easy way to go, the obvious way to go here today.
Absolutely, that's the obvious way to go. Now you can see the rear tires spinning. There's no rule against that in this on iRacing, so he won't get a penalty like he would have in IMSA. It looks like Yuko Lesko is also coming to the pits, splitting this race in half. I'll be curious to see whether he takes tires, because that'll be a real tell. If he does, then I'll be curious to know why he played it so safe for the first stint of this race. But here he comes down pit lane, and he's about to hit his box.
That's Tupola that you can see also
and he
in
does take
the lane.
tires.
Yeah.
All right, so game on.
The plot thickens as we watch him take his service. I do note that Lake is still holding ahead of Mukanos and Campbell. This is for third now, but again, all three of them are yet to pit, and two are coming in. All three are coming in. Ooh, very much pushing the limits on the entry. Phil Lake nearly into the grass.
The important thing to note about the pit cycles, Matthias Hovdahl came out ahead of Cy Andra by about 2.5 seconds, so it's very tight between those guys. So yeah, definitely put Cy Andra up there in the battle for the top three positions towards the end of this race.
Absolutely. Someone smoking there. What is going on?
I'm hoping that's tire smoke, but I believe it is tire smoke. I think that possibly
a glitch of some sort, maybe. Yeah.
I hope so for his sake, because how horrible would it be to get a blown engine on pit road? But he's still in the box as they pull away.
It's very weird. I almost thought maybe he was spinning tires or something.
I think he got hung up, Joe. It happens every once in a while. You get hung up in the lane where you get on the popsicle stand and it doesn't take you.
Oh no. So a glitch, unfortunately, and Campbell falls well down the order. Hovdahl does emerge ahead of Mukanos and Lake, but so does Cy Andra. And in fact...
Oh my goodness! Look at this, Joe! What happened to Rob Olenek?
Oh no! Let me see if I can find it. Oh no, it was pit entry! It was right here! He overshot it, he was in the grass, and unfortunately... he found a concrete barrier. Actually, well, no, that's not even a concrete barrier. It's just you're not supposed to drive behind that pit barrier.
Well, I mean, if he wouldn't have found that, it would have launched him over the pit wall and onto the front straight, which would not have been better for him. So, oh my goodness, the end of such a great race for Rob Olenek. He just gets into the grass on pit entry, slides up there, and hits that embankment.
What a way to throw away that win. Just... And we talked about it earlier. Drivers have to practice that pit entry. That's going to be top of Rob's list for the next time they visit here, I'm afraid.
Well, that's always the challenge, especially, like you said, Rob's been racing the GTPs for most of the season. Jumping back into that new vehicle on such a challenging pit entry, I mean, it's just one of those really challenging things. But here's Roman Pawlowski currently leading. Remember, Yuko Lesko did take his pit stop. Roman has yet to take his. Roman has about a second over Ove Tregrade right now, who I think was trying to pit but got cut off by some GTP, so he's going to go around again. Got plenty of fuel to do so. Oh, Rob's off! Sorry, Ove Tregrade is off on the front straightaway. He just now recovered, but that was a very weird wreck.
Ooh, man, he did a good job using that four-wheel drive, because he was all four wheels into the dirt here.
Look at this. He has plenty of room to turn in, plenty of wheel to turn in. He just carries a little bit too much speed. Looks like he didn't quite anticipate that it was going to be so slick on the outside.
And don't need to go there, but I can report that Ross Banfield had a spin coming through Lukey Heights and MG, and actually had contact, I think, with Mika Tupola. The two of them able to continue on, but with some damage. Joseph Mudrak and Nicholas Schneider have also taken scheduled stops. Schneider is actually out now, and he'll be behind Cy Andra. So as they stand, Andra is our second highest pitter. He sits in fourth, but we're waiting on Fabian Gerber and Fabian Jungbluth to take their scheduled service.
It's going to be tight between Jungbluth and Cy. I think Gerber's got Cy pretty much for sure at this point. But that being said, we need to go back to Nick Mukanos, because I mean, we thought this battle was going to be over. Sure doesn't look like it.
not at all. And actually, they've been joined by someone else instead of Campbell. It's Nick Schneider who emerged behind them. Now, remember, he was in front of them. I'm looking, and he had a slightly longer stop. I wouldn't think it was enough to cost him this many positions, though. It was only about 2 seconds.
Well, I mean...
He was farther up ahead than that, wasn't he?
Yeah, I believe so. I'll have to take a look at his pit entry and see whether or not pit entry or exit caused some issues for him. Fabian Jungbluth comes into pits for the GTPs from the second position, so he's in.
Hofdahl is by. Oh, yeah. Jungbluth is easily past him. Or Andre is easily past Jungbluth, rather. So Andre's now up to third. I'm with you. I think based on what we saw from Matthias, Fabian should not be caught. But that said, it's down to 47 seconds. Sai has been chipping away at Fabian's lead.
Yeah, and in order to affect that pass, he's going to need another 5 to 7 seconds here. So that's definitely going to affect him. Looks like Fabian Jungbluth is just now coming out of the pits, and here comes Gerber into the pits himself. So Sai Andres just now going through Honda. I mean, yeah, I think it depends on how long Fabian's in the box.
Still waiting on a number of our, well, not a number actually, only 3 of our GTOs to pit. Pavlowski, Trangrade, and Shanahan, the only that have yet to come in and take fuel.
Now, Joe, remember, pit stop is not mandatory. If you can make it on fuel, you theoretically could go to the end, but I highly doubt anyone could do that.
I wouldn't think so. The only track that I can think of we've ever seen that was at Detroit, which is a much slower track.
Sai Andra just now going past pit exit. Fabian Gerber, pit entry rather. Fabian Gerber just now on pit exit.
Oh, but Hofdahl is through.
Yep,
Hofdahl is taking the lead. Interesting. So why was he much quicker than Fabian? Did Hofdahl take tires? I think he did, actually.
Yes, but Hofdahl's stop is a second, almost 2 seconds faster than Gerber's, and that calculates out to the difference because now Fabian Gerber's 1.6 seconds behind. So there's your difference right there, is that pit stop length. But
Gerber had pulled to about 6 seconds ahead before the stop. Unless that had changed by the time they came in. I recall it being quite wide at one point.
Jamie Hamill-Smith has been wrecked out of 6th position in the GTOs.
Oh, no.
This was by Jonathan Rickard, who just a little bit of ghost contact between these guys. This is just an unfortunate incident, I think.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the nature of the internet means that they won't actually make contact, but the prediction code of iRacing thought that they would. You see it right here. Yeah. And that sends him off. Now, I don't think Smith is done. He's just waiting for a good chance to get going. Yeah, and he is running again. There you can see he's back on track, but he's fallen to 9th. Well, Hofdahl's got the lead, and he's looking for a second win on the season. Gerber, how concerned does he need to be about this? He has a position over Sayandra, who has been maybe not his rival in points, but in pace much of the season. So if he continues to get points here on Sayandra, who's already a ways back, he doesn't need to necessarily win today.
I mean, Sai's less than 5 seconds back, so Gerber has to go because he knows that Sai has better race pace than him right now because he's been gaining over the course of that pre-pit stint. Now, that being said, Sayandra took tires nearly 30 minutes ago, so his tires are going to be pretty exhausted towards the end of this race, so you can't expect Sai to continue to gain over the course of this. You see Fabian go around Robin Happich there. But Fabian Gerber has got to get his way past Matthias Hofdahl because he knows that he has better pace than Hofdahl because he was able to pull that 6-second gap before the pit stop. So all this math has got to be going on in Fabian's head as he's looking at the rear wing of Hofdahl ahead. And Hofdahl actually got held up there by Devidani, so here we go. Fabian Gerber with a little bit of a run. I don't think he's going to have enough speed, though, to catch up through Doohan, but they've got some GTOs through Doohan. This is Max Bader Thomason in 6th position.
Going to hold the inside. He sees it coming. Both of them are nice and clean heading through the first couple corners. We finally have our last pitter amongst the GTOs as well. But coming off the corner, it is Gerber with a much better run. My goodness, he looks very strong at the start of the lap. They come into Honda, but Hovdal will rebuff him as Gerber's not close enough to attack.
I normally say that the low downforce guys have an edge most places that we go, especially last week. But this week, most of the corners seem to feel a lot like they are opposite banked. That's not actually the case. Most of them are fairly flat or even gently banked in your direction. Oh no, Nick McConos is off.
Oh, and he was ahead of Phil Lake in fourth just before that.
Oh, and the battle for the lead is shaping up too as they go into MG side by side with Matthias Hovdal and Fabian Gerber. Hovdal almost lost it through Lukey Heights.
Wow. The fight is on, and to your point earlier, if they keep fighting like that, Andra will easily be able to start to pick up time. They're going to go past a couple of lapped cars here, and staying off to the side, Shanahan lets them by. It's Cam Porter and Hideki Koivisto in front of them. Neither of them are battling for position. They're both laps down. And looked like Cam Porter also well aware. He lets them ease through. Very different lines, and that line looked a lot better for Gerber.
Okay, like I was saying, it's about that high downforce, low downforce. I think Fabian's got more downforce into that thing, making Hovdal a lot harder to put the power down as he goes through these corners. He takes too deep on the brakes. Fabian Gerber's going to have a better exit here. They're going to go side by side as they head to Siberia.
Around the outside, almost looking three wide. They're just given enough room by Koivisto, and the drag race continues up through Hayshed. If they run into any traffic here, it could really be disastrous. Coming up to Lukey Heights, it looks like it is clear in front of them. Hovdal somehow holds him back. He gave it his best, but Gerber's gonna have to retry it later.
Fantastic battle between these guys. Hovdal and Gerber really digging it out as they dive through Hayshed, up through Lukey Heights, and Hovdal's able to hang it out on the inside. And here they come up to Mika Topola as they go onto the front straightaway. Topola, he's going to head off to the right side. Fabian Gerber's going to have the draft, and he's definitely well within it. Can Matthias Hovdal hold it clean through doing this time?
Now let's stay here, but I can report that Roman Pawlowski, after taking his stop, has handed the lead back to Leskala, and that lead is immense as we've got a side-by-side battle now on screen between Schneider and Lake, almost banging doors as they head into the southern loop. Inside line for Phil is going to get him a nose ahead, and unfortunately Nick Schneider can't retain that fourth spot.
You know, the outside around Southern Loop just so slick right now. Phil Lake able to hold on to fourth position. Nicholas Schneider in fifth, but don't expect that battle to be done anytime soon. We're going to go down to Roman Pawlowski, who himself is having a battle with Reed Miller, and this is now for second position in the GTOs after the pit stops.
This is what I was talking about before. Pawlowski 27 seconds behind Leskala. It's the best of the rest here as they come through MG. Fighting hard. Look at how tight to the back of him Miller is running.
So tight between these guys as they pull out, and as they start to head on to that front straightaway, they're actually going to get passed by the battle for the lead in the GTPs very shortly here. Should be before, probably around where they get to the southern loop. We're going to see whether this happens, but look at this, Reed Miller really gaining. Is he going to send it to the inside through doing? No, he thinks better of it.
And there you see as we hop off of the onboards, that's Hovdal now going to go side by side with them. He pulled a little bit of a gap to Gerber. Gerber going to have the worst of it coming around the long way of the southern loop. Neither of the battles get any closer.
And I got to stress how hard it is to do that for Fabian Gerber. I mean, that...
And Pawlowski with his efforts.
Yeah, but there's still plenty of time left, Joe. 16 minutes left in this race. If Hovdal and Gerber continue to run into traffic and continue to battle between each other, we can see Cy Andra back up there battling for the lead, and he's still just gaining on raw pace as well. This is really impressive stuff from Cy to recover from that spin. Him and Fabian might have another battle yet brewing.
A real Cinderella story if Cy can manage to get the win after having a pretty big wreck. Oh, and you were right. You were right. He can't make it.
Yeah, just not enough fuel in that tank. Unfortunately, the GTP just not able to make it at 50 minutes.
That leaves it between two drivers for the win, Matthias Hovdal and Fabian Gerber. Behind them, it's another 10 seconds to Lake and Schneider, who are still close for what is now the third position, but they're going to have to rely on the top two tangling with one another.
Here they are battling with one another now in that third position, battling for that final spot on the podium. Phil Lake now behind Schneider. So this is, oh my goodness, as he navigates through Roman Pawlowski, who's battling with Reed Miller. Look at how deep he takes it into Honda, actually sliding those front tires. So now he's got a lot more room to make up.
Actually, I heard a radio call from Phil Lake saying sorry to Reed. So he was aware that he's pulling some risky moves, but he's obviously got good impetus to try and make them. Looking at a podium today, if he can just manage to get by Schneider.
Yeah, but unfortunately he's a little bit too far back. While we're watching this, Fabian Gerber's been putting pressure on Matthias Hovdal. It's separated once again, but as they went into MG, Fabian actually dove it up the inside to try and make a move. And unfortunately, Matthias wasn't able to get it. So as we jump back to this battle, take a look at this. Matthias Hovdal, Fabian Gerber. Matthias, I just think those rear tires, I think he's been lining them up too much. He's going to have a real hard time staying ahead of Fabian Gerber, who's been able to keep that platform underneath him.
Still 15 minutes left to go, and one thing we haven't talked about a whole lot is how to manage these tires. Now, granted, it is shorter on the tires themselves, but they've been in the car much longer, or will be much longer by the end, compared to what they have on a normal sprint race. What is that going to affect in terms of wear and tear on this machine?
Well, they're running both of these guys pitted around the halfway mark, so they're actually going to be running the tires a little bit shorter than our 40-minute races. But that being said, Matthias Hovdal has been spinning the tires a lot on exit and actually through the corners. So you can expect that to build up a lot more heat on the rear tires. And as anyone who drives iRacing knows, it's really hard to get the temperature back down and to get that carcass back into temperature window that it appreciates, because it just gets smaller and smaller every single time you slide those tires. So you can see Hovdal swirling around right now. That's not just a product of his low downforce setup, it's also a product of that tire wear, whereas Fabian Gerber looks a lot more stable as we've been riding on board with him.
Down the front stretch. I'm keeping half an eye on this, and also a little bit of a battle between Mudrack and Warcup, but I'll give a shout if that gets any closer. Down through the southern loop, and yeah, they're spreading apart a little bit here once again because of that traffic. So taking a glance at Mudrack, he also has competition, Fabian Newbluth, and hey, who's this? Syandra, trying to get a little higher in the top 10.
Yeah, this is going to be a great battle towards the end of the race, with everyone trying to battle for that 7th position. Look at this, Syandra, though, we know how quick he is. Let's see how many moves he makes on this front stretch.
Well, he's looking very strong off the Swan, and I don't think that's much of a defense. Jungbluth knows that he's a quick driver. He's going to let him through. Next up in line, Mudrack. Oh, and Warcup went defensive down into the southern loop to try and hold off the yellow number 13.
That's a very interesting. Oh my goodness, Syandra! Look how quickly he went through the center of that, through the center of Southern Loop. Now he's going to be challenging definitely onto Mudrack as they get towards. Oh my gosh, he's going to send it way deep into Honda. Mudrack's going to have to go around the outside, but he just lets him go. And now Syandra starting to work himself on to Stephen. Oh my goodness, Stephen Warcup spins it off the corner, and there you go. Easy as that. 3 positions.
And tucks it away out of harm's way. He'll have to try and climb down off that embankment, which will damage the car more. But Syandra, his reputation precedes him, and everybody else gets out of the way for him. He doesn't have to make a pass.
Yeah, well, I mean, everyone knows how frustrated he is right now. I mean, getting spun out that early, having to take that pit stop. But here's the lead battle once again. They're just navigating through P10 in the GTOs. That's Mika Tula once again that they're navigating through. But look at this Hovdal. He's really, really struggling to get the power down right now.
But he hasn't allowed Gerber a good opportunity yet. He's managed to get side by side at least once. Since then, it seems like he's struggling to try to get that overlap. Ooh, that traffic, though, certainly not paying any more favors. Still got to hold him off for 11 more minutes. Here's another little peek. Gerber thinking about it, tries to get the nose in down into MG. He's given space, but Hovdal will once again deny him.
I actually think that was just, oh my goodness, as Hovdal slides it coming through turn 11. I think Gerber actually just took it a little bit too hot through Leaky Heights, was trying to maintain speed. That's why he looked like he was making that move. I'm not sure whether he actually intended to make it or not. That's why we saw that happening. They're coming up on Maxime Thomas. This is going to be the worst place to catch him. Just on the turn in to Doohan. They're going to go around the outside. Maxime able to hold it on the apex.
I think they've finally figured out that outside line through Doohan. As It's a much wider entry, though, for Gerber. That could give him some speed, indeed. It gets him on the rear wing of Hovdal yet again. Does he try to chuck it up the inside of Honda? He gains in the slipstream, coming through Stoner. Nope, he's just going to stay in line, at least for the time being.
Just want to update you on that battle for third position in the GTOs in the points. Escalatinimi has retired from this race, which puts Reed Miller, who's currently in second place in the GTOs, in a really good position to make up some points for this round. So unfortunate for Esco, he's going to lose third position in the points after today's unfortunate event.
This is one of our best battles on track now for the lead in the prototypes. The Enduro comes down to the final 10 minutes, and it's going to have to be a pass on track. Fabian Gerber looking to up it to 4 wins, while Hovdal just trying to get it back-to-back, get his second win of the season. Hovdal not really in the points hunt at all. This is all for pride for him. He probably doesn't care too much about what Gerber has going on. Gerber's got plenty of wins and plenty of championships. The pride is on the line for Matthias.
Cy Andre, even after a second pit stop, is up to 6th position, and to be honest, he's not too far behind these guys, only 36 seconds. I mean, considering the fact that he's had 2 pit stops, that's pretty ridiculous. Fabian Gerber actually took it a little bit too deep into the southern loop, has lost a bit of time to Matthias Hovdal, but he should be able to close that up as they're about to come up upon some slower GTP traffic.
Really, this is, I'd say, just about our only battle on track right now. Schneider and Lake are somewhat close, and also Pawlowski and Trangrade. But Trangrade's fallen back to about 2 seconds behind Roman. He's going to have to hope for a little bit of luck to get him back into the fray.
This is interesting. When Fabian Gerber made that mistake, I saw Matthias Hovdal take it very easy into Honda. I think he's trying to cool down those tires like we talked about. You can see him starting to back up his braking a little bit. I think he's concerned about getting it a little bit tail happy on the exits of these corners. Oh, you can see it right there. He just lost it just a little bit. Here comes Fabian Gerber with a good run. He's going to try and keep his foot down as they go through the final turn. Ooh, he gets a little bit loose himself, but this is his best opportunity. He's going to try to run the outside of do it if he's going to make a move.
Usually has good top end speed. Does Hovdal have it today? Gerber starts to gain a little bit, but is it enough? He goes the long way around. He'll have the inside coming into the southern loop. He's got to seal the deal here. Hovdal tries to fight him, but he slips away on that outside line, and after many laps of trying, Gerber is back up to the top spot.
And Fabian just right on the edge of the slip angle the entire time. And here comes Matthias Hovdal around the outside as they head into Honda. He's going to try and send it deep and try and keep this pace going, but it's not going to work out for him. Can't quite get the over-under either. Fabian Gerber defends his position.
And more wheel spin for Matthias Hovdal. But look at that straight line speed. I think Matthias is not out of this. If he can keep touch with him, if he can get a good run off a corner, he might be able to easily blow by him.
Yeah, but he's got to be able to hang on to the car first, and that's the real challenge for him right now, is those rear tires not happy at all. But Fabian Gerber gets held up by Pablo Rangel, and he's going to not be able to get anywhere by. This is going to hold him up significantly. Contact between the two of them. That's front-left contact for Fabian. That's going to make it even easier for Hovdal to pass him once they get onto the straight. But Hovdal struggling with those rear tires. Here they go on to the straightaway.
How much is it going to be worth the way that he has trimmed out that wing? They're going by Ove Trangrade. Gerber off to the left side. He's gaining big time. Matthias Hovdal is once again a cannon down the straightaways, but he runs out of room.
Yeah, runs out of room. That was Roman Pawlowski right on the apex of the corner, currently in third position, now about 5 seconds behind Reed Miller, so that battle's broken up, but Hovdal just can't get the power down right now. He's really struggling. They've got Ross Banfield and Bryce Calusa up ahead of them, and as well as Reed Miller, who they all wrecked going into Honda. This is going to complex things a lot. Reed Miller able to hang on to it, but he's going to lose that gap that he had built over Roman Pawlowski.
That's a battle for position between Banfield and Calusa. Mind you, it's 4 minor positions as we watch now the fight between Miller and Pawlowski to try and settle out the last 2 spots on the podium.
Yeah, these 2 guys, they were close together before traffic split them up, and now traffic has brought them together again. Reed Miller, actually, I'm quite impressed that he was able to get out of that without any damage, but he's going to have to run away now from Roman.
Indeed, and this is the better battle. Hovdal lost out through all the fighting. He is well behind Fabian Gerber, which is exactly what Fabian has needed. So let's see what the front stretch is going to be like for Miller and Roman as they... Oh, wow! He nearly caused disaster with Oli there.
Yeah, Roman actually had to back out of it significantly, missed a shift doing so, and so that's why we see him falling back a little bit. That was Marty Oli trying to make it around the outside of Reed Miller, ended up compromising his line.
5 minutes left to go. Oh, way wide. Pawlowski, oh, and he's going to chop off Nick Schneider, our third place driver. They almost come together. Thankfully, they do not. That costs him a little time. Phil Lake is quickly approaching, so he's got to try and hustle and make sure that the number 4 stays back.
Yeah, Nick's going to get caught up here behind Reed Miller because Reed's going to have a better shot through the small little gap between Honda and Siberia. That's going to bring Phil Lake right back into the picture here.
I almost wonder. No, he's too far behind. I was going to say, Cy Andra just got on the radio, and I know he's hustling, but he's...
No way! Reed Miller just taking the middle of the track, unfortunately pushes Phil Lake off. Phil able to hold on to it. What a save!
Incredible stuff. He had to pick a line at some point, and Reed, I think he anticipated that he was going to go to the inside there.
Screaming no as they were approaching this, and then no way as Phil was able to hang on to it in the grass. An impressive move there for Phil to hold on to it as Reed Miller just unfortunately in the middle of the track. Phil nowhere to go.
Well, Phil lost a little bit of time, and he's now a second and a half back. Hovdal has fallen back to about a second on Fabian Gerber. He's still working on it. Behind them, Bryce Calusa almost runs into the back of Matthias Hovdal.
Matthias is keeping that gap pretty consistent right now, and they're catching up to this battle for 7th in the GTOs. Actually, the battle for 8th is very tight between Jamie Kimmel-Smith and Mika Topola. Topola actually now very slow as they duck through turns through Hayshed there. Fabian's able to navigate that pretty well. Lukey Heights, though, look at this. Fabian getting held up just a little bit. Hovdal's going to have to take a very desperate move down to the inside of Jamie Kimmel-Smith. Able to get it done, though. Hanging on to the back of Fabian still as we approach 3 minutes to go. That's going to be about 3 laps for these guys.
And still, the traffic is a worry for both of them. Gerber knows that with the distance back to Hovdal, he could give this up. He's got to be on his toes. And these final few laps up next ahead of them, it is our leader, Yuko Leskala. But again, he's not challenged by anybody, so he can afford to give away some time and play nice.
Take a look at this. Ove Trangrade now catching up to the backup Roman Pawlowski a little bit. He gets separated by Nick McConnell, who's trying to recover from his own spin. He had that self spin that we just caught on the exit of Honda, but he didn't pick up any damage, so he's back up to the 5th position.
And Roman Pawlowski still trying to do what he can to catch back up to Reed Miller. Trangrade looks like he's dropping off as well. Let's once again turn our cameras here to P1 and P2 in the prototypes, and there's another opportunity. As you can see, Gerber had to hesitate going by Leskala, and Hovdal chops it down to 0.4 of a second as they cross the line. It's going to be 2 to go.
Leskala with almost a full pit stop lead over Reed Miller right now, but Matthias Hovdal, he just can't get the power down off of the exits of the corners. He's got all the straight line speed he needs to make it past Fabian Gerber as we see him closing that gap so quickly on the front straightaway. But the trouble is that power and the rear tires are just totally shot on Hovdal's machine. Fabian Gerber, though, gets into that dirt that's on the exit of Doohan, able to hang on to it just barely. Fabian absolutely on the maximum attack on the slip angle here with this GTP. I mean, this guy is totally tuned into his car right now. Oh, Hovdal takes it a little deep into the corner, but able to hold on to it, able to make it to the apex.
One thing I love about these older cars, that drivers can try and take a variety of setups, and somehow it comes down to how you wheel them in the end. I think Matthias Hovdal could prove his point that low downforce can work if you can handle it. having won at Barcelona. Not a low downforce track, and certainly not this one either. As they come through MG, once again, it's to Thomason in front of them.
Yeah, and Hopdall just missed the apex just a little bit now, and you know, good for Thomason actually to move out of the way. That's like pretty much the only position I would say on this track that the Audi should move offline for the GTPs, because it really does make turn 11 very, very tight and uncomfortable for these GTPs. But look at this, Hopdall able to close up once again. We are on the final lap. Fabian Gerber and Thijs Hopdall.
Yeah, but that front stretch was probably his best opportunity. Only other really good chance, I think, is if he gets a launch off of the southern loop down towards Honda. It just doesn't look like it's there. Unless we see a mistake or traffic hit Fabian Gerber, I think he's got him held at arm's length.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to have to be a mistake from Fabian, because I don't believe they're going to catch up to Brian Shanahan, who is the next lap car ahead of him. Well, they might catch him, actually, as they go through doing. We'll have to see, because that's going to be the factor that could play into this if Fabian remains consistent. Thijs is attacking maximum attack right now to try and get by, but I just don't think he's quite close enough. They're not going to catch Shanahan through doing so. This is going to come down right to the line.
Well, they're on the final lap right now, so they won't be going through doing again, as they're going to get the checkered flag. And Fabian Gerber does get held up a little bit. Is he going to hold to the inside? No, he's going to take his racing line, but that doesn't give the opportunity that Hopdall needs. Fabian Gerber, for win number 4, comes around here at Phillip Island and takes victory.
Schneider is going to be able to hang on in front of Phil Lake. No traffic to deal with for him, so he's going to be able to get that last step on the podium. Phil, once again, just out of reach of a podium today.
Our leader in the GTOs, Yuko Leskala, he has 7 wins so far. This is going to be 8 out of 9 rounds. Who can stop this man? The Finn will win here in Australia for round 9 of the Kamel GT series. Round 10, rather.
And then nearly a pit stop behind is Reed Miller, who's still making it through the Loki Heights. He's got Mark Materne, who's actually just going to hang out behind him as they go through here just a little bit. So Reed Miller, he's been able to pull that gap over Ove Trangrade, over Roman Pavlowski. He's had so much adversity to deal with today. He's been able to do it and come out in second position. I think he's going to be happy with that silver trophy.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, no other battles really. Oh, Pavlowski's off. Pavlowski went off course. Is there anybody behind him that can catch him?
Oh, yeah, Ove Trangrade finishing third because of that mistake from Roman. So let's take a look at this.
There was nobody around him. I can't figure out what exactly happened. This happens in the penultimate corner, so you'll see him across Lukey Heights and then out of MG. Now, watch as he exits. He's dealing with traffic.
It's held up a little bit. Oh my goodness.
I have no idea. It's like he just drives off the circuit.
I think he might have gotten a little bit of, possibly a little bit of input lag that made it so that his wheel wasn't turning, and then it suddenly snaps in, and with these Audis, they just lose front grip.
Wow, absolutely bizarre. That's going to take us to a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll come back with the official results as well as driver interviews, so stick around. Welcome back to Phillip Island. Round 10 here today for the Kamel GT series went to Fabian Gerber, but he had all kinds of fighting to do throughout the race, not just with one driver. Hovdal was one of them. Syandra was the other, but you won't see Sy until farther down. Hovdal took second, and Nick Schneider with a bit of a quiet third. He also still had to fend off a few comers, Phil Lake amongst them, who finished fourth, and Nick Bucanos, who eventually spun and wound up in P5. Syandra was up with Fabian Gerber early on and then just got tripped up, had to take an early pit stop, and that caused him to take an extra pit stop at the end, wound up sixth. Sean Campbell, another one that made mistakes today, took seventh with Fabian Jungbluth in P8 and Joseph Mudrack in ninth. Martin Krajcik wound up in 10th. Then behind him, it is Tobias Gerber in 11th with Bryce Calusa in 12th. The first one a lap down. Ross Banfield finished P13 and Marty Ollie in 14th. Hideki Koivisto, P15 for him. Laust Olsen with a 16th, and then you get the cars 2 laps down with Carlos Fonseca 17th and Cam Porter in 18th.
Hugo Leskala took the win today, pole to the win, but not without challenge. Remember Ove Trangerade, who battled with him from, it was Rob Olenek who battled with him for most of the race. But Reed Miller came home in second with Ove Trangerade in third position. Reed recovering from quite a few battles himself. Roman Pawlowski had that very strange off that put him down in the fourth position. But Brian Shanahan, a good race from him, puts him into fifth for today. Next, Mayday Thompson's going to come home in sixth with Robin Happich in seventh, Jamie Hamill-Smith in eighth position, and then you get into cars who started to have trouble, like Mika Tupola, Pablo Rangel, Devin Dane, Rob Olenek, and Escaleta Niemi, as well as the rest of the GTPs who had some significant troubles today.
We've got our second place finisher in the prototypes talking to us, Matthias Hovdal. Matthias, congratulations on a second place, although it looks like a win could have been on the cards. Is there anything more you could have done to try and beat Fabian today?
Honestly, I think with the setup I picked and the strategy I had, things played out just about as well as I could have hoped. Fabian was faster than me by at least 2-3 tenths a lap, I think. So it was just the downforce that allowed me to, or the lack of downforce rather, that allowed me to keep him behind on the straights. And also the pit timing, because that allowed me to actually have a little bit more pace than Fabian for at least a few laps until he went and pitted. And that was basically key to actually getting in front of him.
So I take it then, did you actually expect to come out in front of him after your stop there?
The gap was maybe 5-6 seconds, which is quite a lot. But there is a big pace advantage with fresh tires in this car, and I also timed it a bit with the traffic, I think. So he lost a bit of time with older tires, and also with traffic, and the combination of those two made it possible, basically.
Well, you nearly went back to back, and we're heading to another track with a lot of high-speed corners at Mosport. How do you think your chances are there?
Most parts of the track I really enjoy. I haven't driven it before in this car, so I'm excited to see how that feels.
All right. Well, we'll keep an eye out for you. Congratulations on a podium.
Yeah, thanks.
That's Matthias Hovdal. And up next, it looks like Adam's going to be talking to our second place finisher in the GTOs, Reed Miller.
Yeah, Reed Miller coming home second in the GTOs, but not without contest. Reed, let's talk very quickly about 3 to go. That moment you had with a couple of GTPs through Honda. How tough was it to try and recover from that?
Yes. Hello. So that was pretty tricky. I had a GTP that lagged out and then it appeared right in the apex. So it was a pretty scary moment, but I was able to get the car going pretty quickly and just able to hold the spot. Luckily, that was pretty intense.
Yeah, and you had some intense battles throughout the race, battling with Ove Trangerade, Roman Pawlowski, trying to navigate through traffic. Talk to us about the rest of your race today.
Yeah, traffic was definitely an adventure. This is a really difficult track for the GTPs to really line up a pass, so it kind of just happens everywhere, and you can't really even tell how many cars are behind you. So I think that makes for a pretty exciting race for everyone.
Absolutely, Reed, and you've been having some decent success today, and also with this season as well, and also with Esco maybe getting wrecked out today. This puts you in a really good position to gain a bunch of points in that battle for the third position and what may soon be the second position in the championship. What are your thoughts heading into next round at Mussport as far as the championship's concerned?
Yeah, I kind of had that in mind. I mean, I really would like to beat Yuko, but that's not really happening right now. So, I mean, if I can get second best, I think that'll make me pretty happy.
Absolutely, Reed. A fantastic race today and a great consistency over the course of the last couple seasons, actually. Great to be able to talk to you here on your second place on the podium. Is there anyone you want to thank before we let you go?
Just a big thanks to everyone that's watching and racing. Take care, guys.
Thanks, Reed. That was Reed Miller, our second place finisher in the GTOs. And we've got Fabian Gerber, who's going to talk to us. He came home today in the winner of the GTPs.
Absolutely, but it was in question a couple times there today, Fabian. First, Sai, you had to hold him back, and then you had to try and re-overtake Havdal. I mean, tell us about what it was like from your perspective.
Yeah, that was very difficult because at first I didn't even realize I had to overtake him. I thought he still had to pit. I just thought he had maybe some trouble before and then lost time and then stayed out much longer because I had to pit much earlier than planned because there was a lot of Nissans in front of me, so I thought it's better to go now. But I guess I lost too much time and Matthias made it to get in front of me and had definitely less swing, I guess, so he was very fast on the straight. It was very, very difficult, but he's a fantastic racer, so it was a very enjoyable race today.
What do you think allowed both Matthias and Sai to give you a challenge out there today? And what do you consider the secret to being able to fend them off even when it seems like they have better pace?
I'm not really sure if they had better pace. I guess it was about the same. And if you can hang on in traffic, you never get rid of somebody. So from yesterday's race, I knew that at some time during the race with worn tires, I would have a slight advantage against Sai, so I wasn't too worried about that. But then when I realized that Matthias wasn't going to pit, I was very worried, so I thought it's going to be impossible to overtake him. But I had one chance, I could take it, so it was, it's hard to say, but I just fight as hard as I can to get in front, whatever I can do.
You did have one scary moment with Rangel there during the race, and I saw you two exchange some text chat. Have you had a chance to talk to each other and try and bury the hatchet after what happened on track?
No, not yet. It was just, I guess, maybe a misunderstanding. For me, he was all over the track coming into the turn, and usually I overtook that on the right there, and he just blocked that side. So I tried the left, and he went to the left on the racing line. So I felt blocked. That's why I wasn't happy. But I guess it was a misunderstanding. And in lap 7, when we were forced off the track, Sai and myself, that was him too. So I wasn't so sure about it.
Yeah, it looks like there might be some conversations afterwards in that case. Well, congratulations on a win, Fabian, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you in Canada.
Thank you very much. I'll be there.
It's Fabian Gerber, our winner here today. And then up next, Adam has caught up with Phil Lake, who was 4th in the prototypes.
Yeah.
We potentially lose Adam and Phil here.
Sorry. Phil, fantastic finish today. Coming home in 4th, just short of the podium, and you had good battles with the two Nicks and Sai Andre as well as Sean Campbell. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, I was battling early with Sean. Felt like I had a little bit better race pace than Sean, so I was just trying to stay ahead of him through the traffic and just staying with Nick really because Nick McCarnos was really quick, so I was just tagging along with him for the first part of the race. And then at the end there, battling with Nick Snyder. That was fun. It was some really intense battling. A couple of times I got really caught out with GTPs passing, lapped GTPs passing Audis as we were trying to pass as well, and there wasn't space for everyone, so I ended up on the grass, and ultimately that cost me the podium.
And Phil, how much do you think it makes a difference for you to being someone who's transferred over from the GTO, and how that helps your understanding of how to navigate the slower class in the traffic, especially at a track like this where it's so difficult for the GTOs to hold it to the apexes of the corners?
Yeah, I think it makes a difference. Definitely with the top half of the Audi field, because you know where they're going to be, and I guess I kind of don't have to look at where they're going to be. I already know what the line would have been. So the top guys that are on the racing line, it's quite easy to decide where I need to put the car. The GTOs at the back is still, I don't think I have any kind of advantage there, because it's hard to predict what they're going to do. And the same with the GTPs. When you lap some GTPs, it's kind of difficult. Some let you go, some don't, and it can be pretty dangerous with the high closing speeds.
Absolutely. And as we head towards the back part of the season, it seems like you definitely had a marked improvement over the beginning of the season. What are your goals? Where would you like to be at towards the end of the season?
This season doesn't really matter too much to me. I think I've had the pace all season, I think, or not race winning pace, but top 5 pace. I've just been crashing a lot. So I would like to finish the rest of the season without any more crashes, and then go into next season maybe with a little bit of momentum and some good finishes.
Well, Phil, great job today, and awesome to watch you battle on track so often this season, and we look forward to seeing you next week in Mosport.
Yeah, see you guys.
That was Phil Lake coming home 4th in the GTPs, and it looks like we've caught up with Cy Andra, who came home in 6th, but that doesn't tell the whole story.
Not at all. Cy, we saw that you had to take 2 stops in the end. What merited the first stop so early? Did you have a meatball flag?
I have a meatball, but I figured with the amount of time I was losing on the straights and with the lack of downforce on the front of the car, I would destroy the fronts, and the time it would take, the time I would lose waiting until I could make it on one stop would just kill my race. So I decided, screw it, I'll take the extra stop and then just push like hell to the end.
It was impressive, honestly, that you even made it to 6th. So, I mean, talk to us, because what was your setup like in general before the damage? Because it seemed like you had something on Fabian early before it.
Oh, absolutely. I was playing cat and mouse with Fabian. I was kind of figuring out where I could sort of get the runs on him. As you can see, I was kind of showing my nose going to turn 4. And, I wasn't really trying to pass him. Like, I was waiting for traffic so I could make a more convincing pass and sort of run away if I could, or just wait until the pit stop by taking less fuel, because I was saving a little bit behind him on the straights. I think it would have worked. I think it was something similar that Matthias was doing, but it still hurts.
I'm sure. And that's funny, because I even said something that I wondered if you were trying to save fuel the way you held back at first. Up to 6, I'm sure, ideally you'd like to get another win after those 3 earlier on in the season. At Mosport, do you think you can finally do it? That's going to be a really hard one to pass.
I'd like to think I'm pretty good in traffic. Fabian obviously is very good as well, but I think I like to... I think you saw me coming through the field there. I think I'm a bit more aggressive than Fabian sometimes, and I think that will work out in my favor at Mosport.
So we'll hold that prediction close to our chests and bring it back out when we get there. Commiserations that it wasn't a podium today, but thanks for giving us some entertainment at least.
Not a problem.
Cy Andra, who finished 6th, and that's going to wrap up our interview. So we're, of course, going to thank a few people before we go, including the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcasts that you see here on our screen. And additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. Her Bandcamp is listed there at the bottom if you want to find more of her work, and definitely encourage you to check it out. Thanks to the team today, Adam, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Also, check out our social media, which includes Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. If you'd like to support us, check out our merchandise store at gsrc.storenv.com. We keep a link in the description below, so it's nice and easy to go find that. Next race, as we mentioned, will be at Mosport. That'll be Saturday, February 27th at noon Eastern. But we have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen. So check those out and mark them down on your calendar, including up next today, the Bootleg Racing League's Grand National Series goes to Martinsville. That'll be at 9 p.m. Eastern. Until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.